Now, some of this is going to seem obvious, but I just want you thinking about this. I want you thinking, as I'm talking, I want you thinking about your own habits, the way you eat your food, where you eat your food, and the situation surrounding your food. So study after study, in this book that I'm reading, it's called Mindless Eating. I do not remember the author off the top of my head. I can post it somewhere. It's good to know. It's good to know I have a friend, Christy. So funny. So study after study after study showed mindless eating, yes. And I'll be honest, I'm halfway through the book, and the first half is pretty repetitive. It's kind of the same stuff over and over, but it's still very interesting, these different studies that they did. So if you don't want to read the book, let me read it for you, and I'll give you the recap. They did many different studies. So the people in this book, they have a study laboratory, which is actually a restaurant. And just week after week, they do these different studies where half the restaurant is served in one way, half in the other way. Maybe they're served with a different, maybe the waiter's dressed differently. Maybe the plates are larger or smaller. Maybe the wine is free or not free. It has one label or another. So they change all these little things and see how their eating behaviors are. And it's such an amazing thing. So one study that they did is they had a bottomless soup bowl. So one half of the room ate from this bottomless soup bowl that would just continually fill up because they had it all rigged up under the table. And then they had people estimate how much they thought that they ate, right? And the studiers, they measured how much soup was being distributed into the bowl because of the receptacle that the soup was in originally, and then they measured it. And people grossly underestimated how much they ate when this bottomless soup bowl, it was about double, they ate about double what they estimated when the soup would just refill and refill and refill, as opposed to the people that ate a bowl of soup and then ate another bowl of soup, okay? And so what all of these studies, that's just one small example, but what all of these studies are showing is that hello Sam, that we in the United States tend to judge our satiety with our eyes, whereas in many other countries, France for example, hello dear, look at your hearts match my shirt. That's just like you. So where we in our country judge with our eyes, many other countries will judge their feeling of fullness or satiety, or their satiety with the feeling of fullness, the actual feeling going on in their body, right? Which makes sense because we're putting food in the body to get full. But we as Americans tend to judge this with our eyes. So there was another study where they had college students and they were feeding them, what are those? Barbecue wings, chicken wings or whatever, at a Super Bowl party. One group of people, they cleared the table, and the other group of people, they left the bones on the table, or on the plate, so that the people could see how much they ate. Those people ate less, an average of like 2.7 chicken wings, than the people who were constantly having their bones cleared away because they couldn't see the remnants of what they had done, right? So it's kind of obvious to most of us, I think, but it was very interesting to read the studies and see how the behaviors really crossed over. And basically what happened is, in most cases, people ate 50 to 70% more food when they weren't able to see how much they were eating. Okay, so that's an interesting thing to keep in mind. So when you're thinking about the fact that, okay, if I'm eating out of a whole ice cream tub, I can see that tub, but I could see a lot more clearly a little 1 cup measuring thing. Good morning, right? I could see clearly because I've eaten one. Now I have to make a choice to put the ice cream in. Yes, it is incredible. Put the ice cream in my 1 cup tub again so I can calculate. Now, interestingly, though, that's exactly why buffets are so bad, because we just have all this food. It's the seafood diet. We have all of this food, and I'm going to get onto that in just a second when we talk about convenience as well. But really, I'm telling you, put your ice cream instead of a tub. I shouldn't even tell you about ice cream, but instead of putting it into a tub, put it in a small container. But really, shouldn't we be listening to the body, right? But as a second nature, as Americans, we tend to do that. We do that whole supersize thing. We want more bang for our buck, right? I'm going to get, so many more French fries for just a little bit more cost, and that's super awesome for me. However, is it really awesome? Because many of us go through the clean the plate theory. We don't want to waste the food. We don't want to waste our money for the food that we purchased, so we're going to clean that whole plate. If we had 12 fries, we would clean the plate. If we had 25 fries, we would clean the plate, right? 50% more, regardless of whether we're full or not. So here's an interesting thing as we've been supersized for sure. Here's an interesting thing too. I think I forgot to write the statistics down on this one, but I think I can give you a general gist. They did a study to show that when you eat with 4 people or more, you eat well, let me start at the beginning. When you eat with 7 people or more, such as a Thanksgiving dinner type of thing where you're eating with large groups of people, you are likely 70% more food than when you eat it with 4 people. When you with 4 people, like say you go out to dinner with friends, you're likely to eat about 50% more food than if you were just to eat by yourself. So that's kind of an interesting thing too, because we, as a courtesy, sometimes we just continue to eat because the other person's still eating. Sometimes we just continue to eat because we're enjoying the conversation. We want that time to last, so we just have another piece of bread, or sure, I'll have another bowl of soup or more salad or whatever. That's very interesting, isn't it? So be mindful. So one little trick that you can do here, yeah, exactly, to eat all your meal, clean your entire plate. I really think that, that's very possible. That is a throwback from the Depression era when we didn't waste anything, which is good. However, it's also very important to, this day and age, to be listening to our body and what the feedback that our body gives us. So one thing that you can do when you're eating with a group of people, align your speed with the person that's eating the slowest, okay? Pick that person at the table that's just really methodically eating. Eat a little more slowly. That way, when you're still eating your main dish, when the conversation is still going on and all of this, so it kind of slows that pace down, knowing that when you eat in groups, it's going to probably stretch out. You're probably going to eat more. Also, when you think about those feast, eat with a small fork. I had to do that last night. You had to pinch it. Eat with a small plate. Exactly, because the more food that we have on that plate, the more food that we tend to eat. It just showed study after study. Here's another interesting study about convenience. So they did a study in kind of like a little gas station type, convenience store, where they took the ice cream container, chopsticks. Vic, I love that. That's awesome. So where they took the ice cream, those ice cream dispensers like Nestle has or whatever, there's ice cream bars in there. So they had it where the ice cream receptacle, an Italian mother, right, was in the same place every time where people could see it. And one day they would have yes, I can see that because business lunches and dinners, it's usually rich food. You're trying to impress a client or be impressed. And so they're going to take you to a place that's impressive, right? So that's another thing, thinking about the environment that you're eating in. All right, back to the ice cream. So what they did is they put the ice cream in a visible place where people could see it. One day they would have the glass lid open, and one day they would have the glass lid closed, the sliding lid. And what they found is that on the days that people, the glass lid was open, people would buy more ice cream. That's amazing to me, that just simply having the glass lid open made people buy more ice cream. And this wasn't just a 1 or 2 day study. They did this repeatedly on different days, temperatures and things like that. So they tried to get that study as clear as they could, but it was clearly showed that people would buy more ice cream when that glass lid was open because it was more convenient to reach in and get the ice cream. They didn't have to slide the lid. But how many times, really? I mean, I thought, oh my gosh, how lazy are we? But really, how many times do you do that? When you catch yourself, and I want you to practice this week, I want you to catch yourself thinking about when you make a choice that actually betters you because the alternative is a little more inconvenient. For example, do you keep ice cream at home? And of course for the kids, right? When you keep ice cream at home, do you put it in the freezer in the house or do you put it in the freezer in the garage? Put a padlock on that fridge, absolutely. Put the cookies on the top of the fridge where you have to go get a little bench to reach it, depending on your height. So think about that. Put that in a place that's inconvenient and notice. Just do it today. Hey, Eric, notice, do you go to the extra effort to go all the way to the garage to go get that ice cream? If it's in the ice cream cooler in your house, so much in the freezer, so much easier to open that up and grab out the ice cream, right? So give it a try. pick one thing this week that you're going to make really inconvenient for yourself, okay? One example would be don't put it in the house, right? The same goes, you guys know I am always teaching you to make the right things to eat, the easiest things to eat. The same goes for that. This is kind of the opposite end of that. If you make those healthy snacks ready to go, you're going to eat them. If you've got all these luscious, beautiful vegetables in the fridge, but they're not prepared and you're a busy person, you're probably not going to eat them because it's inconvenient, right? And the same thing works for the junky foods, okay? So, here's another little study they did. They put a bowl of chocolate on a secretary desk, okay? So they put it on her desk next to her phone, and then they measured how much she ate in a day. And then they put it in the drawer next to her. And again, they did this with multiple people, so it wasn't just one secretary that loved chocolate. Then they put it in the drawer next to her, measured how much she ate in a day, and of course it was less. It was just slightly more inconvenient to have to open the drawer and to get the chocolate out. And then they put it 6 feet away on a filing cabinet that was up high. Not like she had to get a ladder, but she had to get out of her chair and go get it. And then, are you sure? The studies clearly show that when the candy bowl was only 6 feet away, it was just enough of an inconvenience that she ate much less. Again, I don't remember the statistics of how much she ate, but I remember that it was just an impressive amount considering most of the statistics in this book were 50 to 70% one way or the other. So I'm willing to bet that she ate about 50% less chocolate when the candy dish was 6 feet away. It really kind of is an out of sight, out of mind. That's one piece of it. But I think also it's that inconvenience factor. I mean, I can think of myself. So I just made this huge batch of croutons for my niece's wedding, right? And we had a bunch left over, so I have them in these big Ziploc bags, and they're on the top shelf. I can see them. They're on the top shelf in my pantry, but it's too tall for me to get. I had to toss them up there. And it's good because sometimes I'll go to make myself a salad, and I'm like, oh, croutons would be good, my homemade croutons. But I'm just like, no, they're too high. Never mind. I'll just eat the salad. But I can see those croutons. Hello, Jean. Jean can see the croutons too. Okay, so think about make healthy food cheap and tasty food like a $35 a serving. What? I don't get that. Also, wholesale clubs. They do study, you go to like Sam's Club or Costco and you buy these big bulks, and they do these studies that large packages, people will eat 2 times as much in the first week. So let's say I buy a supersized package of, let's say potato chips, those little bags of potato chips. In the first week, people will eat twice as much. And then they taper off because they got bored of eating those foods. Or maybe even just a large bag of like Stacy's pita chips or something. Awesome, Chris. Whoops. That's awesome. So people would eat twice as much because it was served in a large package. So one way that you can get around that is to repackage it into smaller Ziploc bags, hide the extra food so it's not so visually, as I think it was Craig, was it Craig that said that? So it's not so visually convenient to see. Yay, good job, Chris. Bye. Thanks for popping in. Great idea to stay away from such places, especially just like the buffets. It's all right there, and it feels like, wow, I can eat whatever I want. But should you, right? Should you eat whatever you want? Should we just stop when we're full? Yes, of course we should. So some other things to keep those foods a little less convenient is leave the serving dishes in the kitchen. They've also shown studies that when people take their serving dishes and put them on the table, they eat a lot more. Versus if you have to get up and go to the kitchen to get another round of food. Jean, Allison, we should try that because we always serve our food on the table. Snack only at the table when you're having snacks. Make a commitment to yourself to snack only at the table and on a clean plate because now you're like, oh, well, I have to sit down. That's inconvenient for many of us because we're busy. And now I have to wash the plate. And then I'm going to have to unload the plate. And that's just a pain. So I might as well give up on the snack altogether. You have to make yourself a commitment that that's how you're going to snack. Because if you really do need a snack, you're going to go for it, right? So deconvenience the food, right? Put it in a location that's far away. Have a great day. Oh, good. Take your dogs for a walk. So I actually have to wrap it up too. I've got clients heading in, a new client coming in today, so I like to be a little more prepared. So let me tell you guys a few things. We talked today about making the right foods to eat, the easiest foods to eat. and making some foods inconvenient. I go into a lot more depth on these things in my meal prep guide. And now my meal prep guide is bundled together with my sugar detox. It's a 10-day sugar detox. With each one, the meal prep guide, you get an ebook. It's about 25 pages that walks you through my process of how I meal prep. Gives you a meal plan, a week-long meal plan that is a good, healthy meal plan with snacks, breakfast, lunches, and dinners, and then exactly how to prepare those foods in 1 hour a week so that you can eat healthy all week, and those foods are just lickety-split to put together on a busy weeknight. And so you can use that template. Of course, you can use that meal plan for a week, and then you can use that meal plan in the process that I use to prepare the meals in the future. And so I've given you templates in there and shopping lists and things like that. Lots of tips on how to eat healthy when dining out. So it's more than just meal prep. You're going to get a little bit of tips such as these on how to eat healthier when dining out and the mindset that surrounds that. How to eat healthy snacks on the road and when you're traveling, and some different tips on how to prepare foods, blanching and freezing and things like that. How to get the most out of your food, your grocery budget, because people always say it's so expensive to eat well. But when you're not wasting food, and when you are packaging it up and you're preparing it and freezing it for the future. Oh, this is in my bio. If you swipe left to right, it's in the bio, and it's called the Meal Prep / Sugar Detox Bundle, and that is $23.95. I put those two together, and they both sell for $14.95 separately, but I put them together because they're a great complement. Because when you're trying to quit sugar, the Sugar Detox is about a 15-page ebook with 10 daily emails walking you through the process of how to quit sugar. And it's a good complement to the meal prep guide, because when you're trying to quit sugar, really, really important to make the healthy foods as convenient as possible. And when you spend just 1 hour a week meal prepping, those healthy foods are going to be right there for you to grab, and it's going to seal the deal. Okay?